friend, Ms. Whitaker here. Today we are going to read Gaston. And this is a book that I really like because it has puppies in it, and I just love puppies. So the author of Gaston is Kelly DiPuccio. Do you remember what the author does? Great, let's say it together. The author writes the words. Good. And the illustrator is Christian Robinson. What does an illustrator do? Great. The illustrator draws the pictures. Great. Let's get started. Gaston. Mrs. Poodle admired her new puppies, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Would you like to see them again? Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Perfectly precious, aren't they? Mrs. Poodle thought so too. The puppies grew, as puppies do. 3 were no bigger than little teacups. The 4th, however, continued to grow and grow until he was the size of a teapot. What do you notice about Gaston? He looks a bit different, right? Mrs. Poodle took pride in teaching her puppies how to be proper pooches. They were taught to sip, never slobber. Good, well done, very nice. Oh, nice try, Gaston. They were taught to yip, never yap. Yip, 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 ruff. And they were taught to walk with grace, never race. Tiptoe, tippy-toe. Whoa, slow down, Gaston. The puppies were also taught how to look pretty and pink, nibble their kibble, that means eat their food gently, and ride in style. Whatever the lesson, Gaston always worked the hardest, practiced the longest, and smiled the biggest. Mrs. Poodle was very pleased with all her puppies, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston. Spring arrived and the proud mother was eager to show off her darlings. She took them to the park for their very first stroll in public. There was so much to see, daffodils, ducklings, dogs. Oh dear, who do we have here? Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. Would you like to see them again? What do you notice about the families of puppies? Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette. This was more than a little awkward. The mother sized up the pups. The pups sized up one another. That means they looked them up and down. It seems there's been a terrible mistake, Mrs. Bulldog said, breaking the silence. Oui, oui, Mrs. Poodle agreed sadly. Whatever shall we do? Mrs. Bulldog could not come up with an answer. I guess we'll let them decide, she replied at last. So the 2 mommy dogs think that there's a problem. What do you think the problem is? Where was the mistake? Gaston and Antoinette were young, but even they could see that there had been a mix-up. The 2 puppies began to circle around and around and around the group. Gaston walked with grace, and Antoinette raced. Gaston yipped, and Antoinette yapped. And when they finally came to a stop, the puppies had traded places. There, that looked right, but it just didn't feel right. So the 2 puppies switched families. But would you want to go live with someone else's family? That evening, Antoinette tried to fit in with her new sisters. but she did not like anything proper, precious, or pink. "Phooey," she said. On the other side of town, Gaston tried to fit in with his new brothers, but he did not like anything brutish or brawny or brown. Ick. Antoinette and Gaston weren't the only ones who were having a hard time adjusting. How do you think the mommy dogs are feeling? Yeah, they miss their puppies. The next morning, Mrs. Poodle forgot all about being proper and she raced back to the park. Mrs. Bulldog was already there, waiting with her burly brood. "It seems we've made a terrible mistake," she nearly shouted. "Oui, oui," Mrs. Poodle agreed happily. What do you think they're going to do? This time, Gaston and Antoinette wasted no time in trading places. There, that looked right, and it felt right, too. So Gaston and Antoinette went back with their families, because that's where they belong. From that day forward, the families met in the park every afternoon to play. Rocky, Ricky, Bruno, and Antoinette taught the poodle puppies a thing or two about being tough. Likewise, Fifi, Fufu, Ooh La La, and Gaston taught the bulldog puppies a thing or two about being tender. Tender means being gentle. And many years later, when Gaston and Antoinette fell in love and had puppies of their own, they taught them to be whatever they wanted to be. And that is the end. Can you think of something you really love about your family? Something I really love about my family is that I have 2 sisters. So it's like having 2 friends all the time. Bye, friends.